I knew going into this year that monthly wrap-ups would not be very successful, and I was right. Hi everyone, it's Maddie. Welcome back to my channel. I don't have much makeup on today because I decided not to. I haven't filmed a wrap-up since March, and that is because I've been in a massive reading slump and haven't really read much, and so I decided that at the end of this month I was going to film all the books that I've read from April to August. It really isn't a lot of books to me. I'm going to start off with my paperbacks first and then go into the books on my Kindle just so it makes it a little bit more easier. The first book that I read in April was Before We Were Strangers. I did read this in April, so I'm not going to remember much of it, but I do remember the characters' names are Grace and Matt. So this book follows Grace and Matt. Grace is a musician. I think she plays the cello, and Matt loves photography, so he's a photographer. They meet in college, and from what I remember, it's based on like a friends to lovers, and it's a past and present book. So you see them together in college going through the whole friends to lovers phase, and then in the future you see them kind of rekindling what they used to have, because they kind of like went their separate ways and then they find each other again. I think I rated this a 4.5, I think, just because I was a lot more interested in the past chapters than the present. What is it you want? I know what you want actually, but I'm not giving it to you. No, you're very impatient. No. I think this is also set in the 1980s, 1990s, I think, which I loved the vibe of the book as well. It was really great. The first book that I read in May is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I actually got this book gifted by one of my friends, and I'm so very happy that I got it. Thank you so much if you're watching this. I was literally going to read it on my Kindle, and then the day that I was going to read it, this came in the mail, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. I was also going to buy it as well after I finished reading it on my Kindle if I liked it. This is about a girl named Naomi. She is a runaway bride, and her twin sister had actually messaged her saying that she's in need of help and that she needs to come and get her. And so Naomi arrives to this small town only to find out that her sister decided to steal her car and her money and just leaves her with an 11-year-old who she finds out is her niece. Naomi's sister has a reputation of being a bit of an arsehole in that town, and so obviously they look alike. They see Naomi and think of her twin sister. And so one of the people in the town, Knox is this very grumpy hairdresser, and so obviously he doesn't like her at the start. He doesn't want her there, but obviously she's going to be staying because she loves to, you know, take care of people, and it's just one of her many personalities. I rated this book 5 out of 5. I would probably take it down now to maybe a 4.75 just because there were parts in this that were a bit slow, and it is a very thick book. Yeah, just a little bit of parts that kind of bored me, but overall I really enjoyed this book. Next book that I read is The Silent Patient. I still get very confused with names. I don't know if it's Alyssa or Alicia. This is about a woman named Alyssa. I'm just gonna call her Alyssa, I don't remember, and she shoots her husband and doesn't speak again. I rated this book, I think, a 4.5 or a 5-star. Let me have a look. I rated it 4-star. The only reason it is not a 5-star is because I was pretty bored most of the book, I will say, and it was very kind of, for me, I figured it out. Don't know how, but I figured out the plot twist and everything in this book. It was still a bit of a shock because I didn't think I was going to be right, but the plot twist was still very good. Next book that I read, finally, oh my god, it took me forever to read this book because I didn't have it until literally I had to reorder it from a different website. But I read Terms and Conditions. This is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. If you haven't read the first book, The Fine Print, go read that before you read this one. This one follows Declan and Iris. Basically what happens is Declan's grandfather dies and leaves this will to not just him but his two other brothers, Cal and Rowan. Rowan is the first one, which is The Fine Print, and then you have Declan, and then the next book is going to be Cal's book, which I'm so excited for. He leaves each brother a will of like kind of how to get the inheritance of whatever place. And so for this one, for Declan to be able to become CEO of another company that his grandfather owned, he has to get married and have a kid. This is where Iris steps in. So basically she has to find Declan a wife to be able to, you know, marry and have a kid with him, and it's impossible, and so she decides to step in and become his wife. I'm not gonna lie, even though this is the second book, it's not my favorite. The fine print is definitely by far my favorite. I knew this book wouldn't be able to top the fine print, but I feel like maybe Cal's book will be able to top the fine print. I don't know. It'll probably definitely top this one. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. I'm not a fan of Declan. I know it's a whole grumpy sunshine type of thing, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Declan. I don't like him, but he is definitely cute with Iris. I love Iris. She's my absolute favorite, as well as Zara, who was in the first book, the fine print. But yeah, it's very, very cute. The last 4 books that I read is part of a whole series. It's still being written. There's supposed to be like a 5th book coming out, but I read Heartstopper. I'm not gonna lie, it did take me a little while to read this just because they are graphic novels, and I'm not really a fan of graphic novels, but I 1,000,000% loved these ones. All of them are 5 stars. And if you haven't read these or watched the show that is on Netflix, please go and read and watch it. June, I only read 1 book. This is where my reading slump came in. I stopped reading on my Kindle for a bit, and so reading physical books kind of took me maybe a little longer, because if you have a Kindle, or you know people that read on a Kindle, it is very fast to read books on there because you feel like you're reading it so much more quicker. Yeah, let's go on to my Kindle for June, because it's the only one on my Kindle. In June, I read The Infinity Between Us by Ennis Perkins. So this book is a past and present book. So you have 2 characters, Violet and Will. They've been friends for a very, very long time. They have a holiday home together. Will and his family already live there, but Violet comes down every summer to go and stay with them until, you know, summer break is over. And so something happens on one of the summer breaks and it causes them to not talk anymore. So 18 years later, Violet has to go down to the summer house to sell it because they haven't been there in 18 years. And she ends up finding Will there. I don't want to say too much about it because it is just one of those books where I feel like you need to go in a bit blind. It is a friends to lovers, past and present book. I gave this book a 4.75 stars. As you can tell, a lot of these books aren't really 5 stars just because it was short, and I love that. Ennis Perkins books are very short and quick and easy to read, so if you're looking for those type of books, definitely go read those. Yeah, I just kind of wish it was a little bit longer. I also do prefer the past chapters than the present. And then for July, I actually did not read anything. Well, actually, I tried to read Collided by Lauren Asher, and I didn't end up finishing it. I'm still reading it. I put it on hold, as well as another book, because I was reading a very important book that I wanted to read. And if you haven't read these or watched the show that is on Netflix, please go and read and watch it. Alright, these 2 are part of the series. I read the first one and the last one. I reread The Inheritance Game. I got this cover and decided to read it. I am still in the midst of reading it because I didn't finish it, but by the time this is up, I'll be done with it. I am annotating it this time with this version. If you don't know, this is one of my favorite mystery series ever. It is very, very similar to Knives Out, and that is one of my comfort movies of all time. If you haven't watched Knives Out, I would definitely recommend going and watching it. It is so good. This book is about a girl named Avery Grams, and she's just like an ordinary girl, but one day ends up inheriting Tobias Hawthorne's will. He was a billionaire, but sadly passed away, and so he gives basically everything to her and nothing really to his family. She has to figure out why she was given this inheritance with 4 of the Hawthorne brothers. It is so good. I absolutely loved it. The plot twists in these books are amazing. There is a love triangle between 2 of the Hawthorne brothers with Avery, and it's a very great love triangle. I will say it's not like Hunger Games or in Twilight. You know, you have the love triangle in those ones, but you know who the right person is. But this one, I mean, you kind of do know who the right person is for her, but at the same time they're both great, and so it's very like 50-50 between them, I guess. The last book I actually got early. I got a week early before it was supposed to come out, and so I was very thankful to Amazon and people that shipped it out, but I got The Final Gambit. This is the last book in the trilogy. I finished it last night. It took me 3 days to read, I think. Not gonna say anything about it because it will spoil it for the rest of the other books if you haven't read those, and also I'm not spoiling it for anyone. This book I gave 4.75 stars. Oh, by the way, 5 stars for this one. Obviously, reread, 5 stars. I gave this one 4.75 just because there are little bits of it where I got bored, but it was still very good. This one isn't very plot twisty than the rest of them, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I cried after because it's the final book and I was not ready to close the book. Alright, the rest of the books are on my Kindle, so let's go back to April. My 2 April reads that I read on my Kindle are Indigo Ridge and Juniper Hill. This is the first 2 books in the Eden series. I did actually have to buy these books because they're not on Kindle Unlimited, but they were actually pretty cheap, I guess. Let's start with Indigo Ridge. This one follows a woman named Winslow who is Pilar. Where did Pilar come from? I don't know how that happened, but anyways, Winslow is part of the, oh, I put police together, police department. Winslow used to visit this little small town with her grandfather, and so she goes back to this town and becomes chief of police. And when she gets there, she has a one-night stand with one of the owners kind of the town, Griffin Eden. Another little part of the story is that Winslow finds out about this whole murder of all these women that apparently jump off a cliff, and she doesn't believe that they commit suicide, and so she tries to figure out what has actually happened to all these women. I gave this book a 4.75 stars, I think. I really enjoyed it. She doesn't write breakups from, like, you know, the 90% breakups and then they get back together somehow in like a span of 2 pages after being broken up. These characters are mature adults and don't actually break up at any part of the story, which I absolutely loved. That's one of the reasons why I love it so much. And so if I had a breakup in it, it would have been like a 4-star. I think as well I was a little more interested in the mystery type of part of the book because I just wanted to know what was happening to these women, and so I'm a very big mystery girl. The second book in the series, Juniper Hill, I read right after that because obviously I had to. Like, the first book was so good, and the way that they set up for like the rest of the series is amazing. Like, they set up at the end for each book and I love that, and so I had to dive into this book. I had to, okay? I just had to. A woman named Memphis moves into Quincy with her little son because she wants to get away from the life that she had. I forgot where, I think it was like New York or something, and she wants to leave her past behind and start a new life for her son. And so she ends up finding a job in Quincy for one of the Edens. Thing is though, she doesn't have a place to stay, and so Eloise decides to basically offer up her brother's place, who is Knox Eden. He is a chef at the Eloise Hotel. He is very reluctant to give her the place at like the top of his garage, you know. Yes, it's like for guests and stuff, and yeah, the rest is history. I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it so much. I just loved it. Memphis and Knox are just the cutest couple ever. The way that Knox handles Memphis' son is the cutest thing ever. First book that I read in August is Garnet Flats, which is part of the Eden series. It's the 3rd book. This one follows Talia. So Talia's ex, Foster, decides to come back and try to win Talia over after a mistake that had happened in the past. He is a boxer. She just wants to kind of forget about him, move on. She doesn't trust him anymore, and so basically second chance comes in. He has to try and win back her trust because he wants her back. He loves her so much. I gave this book, I think, 4.5, 4.75. just because the reasoning of why they had broken up was a little iffy to me. I didn't know if I would wanted to have moved past that. Yeah, it made sense to me, but at the same time it didn't, and so I wasn't very fond of the reasoning. They are very cute. It's not my favorite book in the series. It would definitely go Juniper Hill, Indigo Ridge, and then Garnet Flats. Next book that I read, I've been wanting to read for a little while. This book I actually had seen before it became semi-popular on Book Talk. And that is Colorblind by, is it Sierra Mailey? So this book follows a girl named Harper, and she has this kind of ability to be able to see at what age someone will die. She has no control over it. It's just kind of there, stamped on their foreheads. And so she's kind of very to herself, I guess. She doesn't like talking and having a lot of friends because, you know, they're gonna die at some stage, and so she doesn't want to form connections with people. But the girl that moves into her little town, I guess, or her area, the girl that moves into her area, her name's Chloe, and she sees that Chloe has until the end of the summer before she dies. Harper doesn't want to form a connection with her because she knows that when she dies, it's not gonna be pretty. Both of them are gay and they have this connection with each other, which I absolutely love. Chloe is a very outspoken girl. She doesn't keep her opinions to herself sometimes, which I love. They have a little thing together, friends to lovers type of thing. It's very, very cute. I gave this book 4.75 stars. The only reason I didn't get full 5 stars, even though I loved it so much, is the ending was very, very rushed. I will say I would have loved to see a bit more in the epilogue, because it was kind of like, oh yeah, this happened, and that's it. That happened, that's it, done. It was very rushed. That's the only reason. The rest I absolutely loved. And that is it for this video. I hope it wasn't too rushed. I hope I made sense of a lot of things. If I didn't, that is just me. I don't make sense half of the time. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you did enjoy. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!